Looking at Russia's population curve, it is not a decline. It is a free fall. In 2023, the number of newborns in Russia fell below 1.3 million, the lowest level since 1999. Meanwhile, deaths have consistently outnumbered births for an entire 30 years. What is even more alarming is the long-term trend. Russia's total fertility rate dropped to 1.4 in 2022 and declined further in 2023. A fertility rate of 2.1 is needed to maintain a stable population. For today's Russia, that number is little more than a dream. Under the United Nations' most optimistic projection, Russia's population will shrink from 146 million today to below 130 million by the middle of this century. Under pessimistic projections, it could fall below 100 million. This is no longer just a population problem, it is a national survival problem. And the war is pressing the accelerator on this demographic time bomb. In mid-2024, the UK Ministry of Defence estimated that Russian military deaths had surpassed 70,000, with more than 200,000 wounded or permanently disabled. Most casualties are men between the ages of 20 and 35, the very group with the highest reproductive potential. This is not simply a matter of more people dying on the front line. It means that the future generations these men would have produced have been permanently erased. After World War II, it took the Soviet Union 20 years to repair its demographic structure, and that recovery was supported by a post-war baby boom. Today, there is no baby boom, only a fertility cliff. By late 2022, mounting losses in Ukraine had forced the Kremlin to take a step it had long tried to avoid. In September, Putin announced a partial mobilization, calling up hundreds of thousands of reservists for military service. Within days, airports were overwhelmed, border crossings stretched for miles, and a wave of emigration began as many Russians sought to avoid being drafted. At least 800,000 to 1 million Russian citizens eventually left the country. Most were urban middle-class professionals, highly educated young people and IT workers, the very people most critical to the country's future labour force and demographic renewal. They left Russia, taking their skills and reproductive potential with them. Worse still, more than 60% of those who left were men, creating a significant gender imbalance inside the country. Russian expatriate communities are now spread across Georgia, Armenia, Kazakhstan, Turkey, and the Baltic states. They are putting down roots, finding jobs, getting married, and having children abroad. Many of those children would otherwise have been born in Russia. The decision to have children is never just an economic calculation. It depends on confidence in the future, when fathers, husbands, and sons are mobilized and sent into the mud of Donbass, when family savings are consumed by inflation, when television broadcasts obituary notices every day. Will Russians still want children? The answer seems unequivocal to anyone: no. A 2023 survey by Russian sociologists found that among women aged 25 to 40, the prime childbearing years, the proportion explicitly stating that they were not considering having children under current conditions exceeded 40% for the first time. This is not something that financial incentives can reverse. It reflects a collapse of trust in the system itself. The government has not ignored the problem. It has extended maternity leave, revived the hero mother title, increased subsidies for large families, and launched patriotic campaigns promoting childbirth. Every available policy tool has been deployed. But the numbers do not lie. Between 2022 and 2023, spending on birth incentives increased by 28%. Yet the birth rate still fell by nearly 3%. Why? Because structural limits are stronger than any government subsidy. Urbanization continues to raise the cost of raising children. Abortion rates remain unusually high. Alcohol abuse and cardiovascular disease contribute to premature male mortality. Primary pediatric healthcare remains underdeveloped. None of these problems can be solved within 3 to 5 years. There is another revealing trend hidden in the data. Fertility rates among ethnic minorities are falling even faster than among ethnic Russians. Chechnya and Dagestan were once major contributors to Russia's birth rate and helped sustain the national average through their relatively high fertility levels. That is no longer the case. Dagestan's fertility rate has fallen from 2.6 to below 2.0 in just a decade. Chechnya has also experienced a substantial decline. Economic deterioration in peripheral regions, the impact of military mobilization, and declining healthcare services have combined to weaken even traditionally strong Muslim fertility patterns. The last demographic cover is being removed. The collapse of the labor force is the monster growing directly out of this population crisis. Russia's working-age population entered a phase of net decline in 2017. No matter how strong military-industrial production becomes, one fact cannot be hidden. Russia's economy is increasingly constrained by a rapidly shrinking labor pool. Manufacturers cannot find workers. The oil industry lacks skilled technicians. Even maintenance schedules on the Trans-Siberian Railway have reportedly been reduced because of labor shortages. Russia remains the largest country in the world by land area, yet its effective labor density has fallen below a dangerous threshold. That alone makes a return to sustained high-growth development increasingly unlikely. Looking further ahead, population structure determines geopolitical gravity. An aging and shrinking Russia faces difficult questions. How does it secure borders stretching from Kaliningrad to Sakhalin? How does it maintain strategic balance against countries with much larger populations? The Soviet Union could compete with the United States during the Cold War because it possessed nearly 300 million people and an enormous educational advantage. Today's Russia has less than half the population of the Soviet Union. Educational quality continues to deteriorate under sanctions and technological isolation. The net outflow of scientific and technical talent exceeds the inflow generated by returnee programs by a substantial margin. This is not merely decline, it is the breakdown of the underlying foundations. What must be said clearly is that Russia's leadership appears to view the problem primarily through a fiscal lens. They assume that having children is largely a matter of financial incentives. This is also true for other countries like China. In reality, many young people strongly resent the idea of themselves and their reproductive choices being treated as economic tools or contributions to national economic development. Yet these countries continue trying to mobilize or inspire young people through this kind of grand narrative. Their state propaganda machinery is clearly failing to keep pace with the times. Birth rates are fundamentally a society's vote of confidence in its own future. And today, many Russians are voting with their feet. Before the current war is even over, the demographic war may already have been lost. In the end, every great power is built on people, and Russia is running out of them.